The year is 1984. The founder of Electronic Arts, Trip Hopkins, would approach football legend John Madden. He would pitch a game that would be a sophisticated football simulation. Even though Madden knew nothing about video games, he was in. Over the next 4 years, EA would go through development hell. But in 1988, John Madden Football would debut. The game was actually received quite poorly. The team at EA didn't give up, and in 1990, John Madden Football for the Sega Genesis would be released, selling over 400,000 copies, and this would kick off the annual Madden tradition. Over the next decade, Madden would have a historic rise, becoming the game to have in America. In the early 2000s, the Madden franchise was at the frontier of quality, not only putting out some of the best sports games ever made, but some of the best video games ever made. 5 games came out in 2005 with the NFL license, including NFL ESPN 2K5, one of the greatest sports games ever made and EA's biggest competition yet. This competition was great for the players, as we saw quality increase and prices drop. Ultimately, this pushed EA to make a better game, and the year after, we received Madden 2006, one of the best installments in the entire franchise. This era of Madden feels like they took the best of the previous title and added to it every single year. You never felt like you lost anything, you just saw improvements. The game's flagship mode was Franchise, where you take a team and control every aspect of it. And this game would have one of the greatest, most in-depth experiences ever seen in the game's history. There were weekly national and local newspapers, and players and coaches would email you with concerns. There were player holdouts on contracts. The draft and scouting were extremely in-depth, with detailed scouting reports, draft grades, and crowd reactions to your pick. There was training camp and position battles. You had to hire a coaching staff, and each coach had their own stats. Free agents would show their interests, morale, awards, expected contract. You could customize everything about your team to name, color, city, stadium, everything down to the price of the hot dogs. There was even an in-game radio show with Tony Bruno. You could jump into a game that your team had nothing to do with because it's your franchise. The list just goes on and on. This game had some of the most polished gameplay the series had seen to this point. While it may have been more arcade-like than 2K5's, it was still extremely fun. The player didn't control the player model itself, instead it controlled a physics engine underneath it. The engine had rules it had to follow, like momentum. You could see the player's speed slow down and speed up when he changes direction. This gave the player full control and it felt amazing. This has its downsides, like you can see the player's feet sliding around, but overall this made the gameplay feel incredibly smooth and realistic while remaining responsive to user inputs. This was undoubtedly one of the greatest gaming experiences of the year, and EA would be rewarded for this. This was the first game released under the NFL and EA Sports official license partnership. This made it so EA was the only game company that could release a simulation football game with the NFL license. This would kill any competition that EA would ever face again, as no one could make a football game with the NFL teams. The lack of competition led to stagnant development, and we never saw big improvements in the game again. EA knew there were no other options for consumers. If you wanted to play as your favorite teams and players, you had to buy Madden, regardless of quality. Looking at the game a decade later, we see this in full effect. While it has improved graphically and the pre-game presentation is a lot better, there's little else to be excited about. Franchise mode, which made the game so successful and popular in the past, has been completely stripped of all challenge and all depth. You can't hire coordinators. In fact, they're not in the game at all. You can't create a team or edit an existing team. If you want to relocate, you can choose from a set of pre-made teams, uniforms, and cities. They remove position battles in the competitive free agency period. Players no longer have individual interests. The draft and scouting has been boiled down to their simplest form possible. Over the season, you reveal 3-letter grades for a player, and that's all you do. No training drills, no scouting notes, there's no minicamp, no creative play, no creative fan, no historic teams, no team emails from players or coaches, no newspapers, no player holdouts, no front-loading or back-loading a contract. You can't sign free agents for more than a single year. No retired player stats. Once they're gone forever. The ability to play any game you want in your franchise is gone. Player morale, team expectations, anything to do with your team's finances is gone. Practice uniforms, coach progression, and dynamic attendance are no longer in the game. That and so much more has been removed from this game. The gameplay is also a complete mess full of glitches and bugs. There is no longer a separate physics engine per player. Instead, the player controls their own model. This can result in extremely awkward gameplay, as regardless of player input, if an animation starts, it has to finish. This game's big new feature was the addition of aggressive possession and rack catching. While in theory this gives the player more control on what they want the receiver to do, in this game it's just absolutely broken. You could throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns with Johnny Football if you wanted to. This is no longer a sophisticated football simulation. This isn't just one bad game either. EA has been removing content from the game for years now, and fans know this and they're expressing their frustration. But regardless of the backlash, EA has put out disappointing product year after year. But in 2020, something started to change. The hashtag #FixedMadden franchise would become extremely popular, trending on Twitter, and EA would even acknowledge it, saying, "We see your #FixedMadden franchise tweets, and we understand your frustration. That starting today, the developers are working to improve franchise mode for Madden NFL 21 and beyond." This is what the community has been waiting for. Their voices finally heard. What could be better for the game than this? This could send the game into another golden age. And on August 6, 2020, Madden NFL 21 would be released to the public. It would arguably be the worst game in the entire franchise. It has the lowest user score on all of Metacritic, not just of sports games, not just of football games, but of all games ever reviewed on Metacritic. And this one unfortunately set a trend for the franchise, as this whole new generation of Madden has some of the worst user reviews you will ever see. So where does that leave us today with Madden 26? The game would go through its usual cycle. It's hyped up online. EA promises to deliver better gameplay and new features. And then the game comes out and it's the same buggy, broken mess of a game. This year they added a weekly recap show with Scott Hansen, but it's bugged and player models don't show up. The gameplay is also worse than it was in Madden 16's. The animations feel even more forced. Defenders don't play the ball downfield, and the run game is really easy. Every year, football fans buy the new Madden game. It's not because it's good or even fun, it's because it's the only football game. If you want to play with the players you watch every Sunday and the teams you love, this is the only option. Every year they get away with slightly improving in one area and regressing in others. They've been doing it for a decade and a half at this point. They'll add some new feature to sell the game, then they'll remove it a couple years later. It never really improves. Still, every year, people get sucked into buying Madden because they have no other choice. And seeing as EA just extended its license with the NFL, it looks like this is all we're going to be getting until 2030. That might be a wrap.